Jay Hamilton back at the ALEC annual meeting in Austin, Texas with Salim Furth, Senior Research Fellow at Mercatus Center. You're involved in the land use issues, and you were just saying that ground zero is the cities. Go over that.
That's right. So you think of the federal government as the sort of the bastion of big bureaucracy preventing people from doing basic things with their lives, but often the number one cost in your budget, the number one barrier to the life you want to live, is a city council or a zoning board that says, I'm sorry, you can't live here.
And we have a lot of examples in the towns we're from here in Arlington. Yep. The quality of life now, you're having cities really increasing in popularity.
Sure.
So what would be some of the things that would butt up against each other as far as the land use and I guess, sustainable growth?
So what we ought to have is a system where people can ultimately choose how they want to live, whether it's in an apartment building or in a single family home or in a townhouse. And guess what? Your life changes, right? I got little kids right now. I want a yard. A couple of years ago, a yard was just extra work I didn't want. And we go through these changes, and your community should provide for these different types of lifestyles, these different stages. And it should be flexible enough to change. Too many people want to put their community in amber, like they love the way it was in the 90s or the 50s or the 1880s, and they just want to keep it that way. And that's really unhealthy. That does not fit with the people's lives that are going to be lived out. So giving flexibility for people to provide different kinds of housing to different parts of the market and to people of different incomes. And frankly, a lot of cities they want everyone to be above average. And that's just not an inclusive message. That's not a message for all Americans.
So your message here to a lot of the lawmakers, the state and city and county lawmakers is take another look at your zoning and make sure it's with the times.
That's right. And we want to move the times. I don't think the times are good. Right now we're building some of the least housing in American history. And even as the population is growing, people are trying to get out and form their own households. There's this national attitude that growth is bad. And I don't understand that. I like people. And I like when they move to my community. They enrich it. We know that more people raises productivity and wages. It provides more options. It helps your business. And yet we act in our local governments as if new people are a threat to our way of life. And I think that attitude has to change at the top. And then that gets played out in, do you allow houses on small lots? Do you allow manufactured houses? Do you allow apartment buildings in a community that's mostly single family? And if you don't, you are fundamentally using regulation to force your vision on other people, and that's not what we're about.
One of the things that just came to mind, because we have an unusually large lot in my home in Arlington, is the alternative dwellings.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it. My dad's getting older. It'd be a wonderful thing. So right now, home ownership has been a real issue. Getting the next generation into homes. Does this play into some of your messaging and how we can make more affordable housing and get people to own their property?
Yeah, that's right. So you'll hear about affordable housing, and some people run immediately to subsidies. Like, well, sorry, we have to give people money because they can't possibly afford housing. So, well, that's not right. Our parents, our grandparents had lower incomes, but they could afford homes. Why can't we afford sometimes literally the same house? It's still there, and it's now out of our budget. What happened? And it's that we stopped building enough new ones. So, yeah, you might not be able to afford the best house, but you should be able to afford the kind of house your dad or your mom could afford 30 years ago. It's still there. It's a little older. It should be cheaper. If it's not, it's because we're not building enough housing.
Right. Well, and it's a joke around, my generation, which is I couldn't afford the house I'm in now.
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely.
I don't know how we did it then. Seth, listen, best of luck to you as you go around and take your message to the lawmakers. And where can people go for more information?
So if they go to mercatus.org and look for our urban economics section, they'll find all of our research on the technicalities and the policies. And we're excited about this issue. And I think what's great is that we're seeing a lot of change in hearts and in policy.
Thank you, Salim. Salim Furth with the Mercatus Center.
Thank you so much.